Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. What did we say in yesterday's video? We talked about a possible breakout for PLTR testing the 34s. It closes above that mark. We see an astronomical soaring in price up over 14% tomorrow. If that momentum continues, we don't know where it's going to go. Possibly $35 is on the table. We have Alex Karp coming out and making a very professional statement about PLTR's inclusion into the S&P 500. I'll show you guys where to find that video. We're not going to be, breaking down the whole thing. You should go and watch it for yourself. We're also going to be talking about what could be happening in tomorrow's market regarding what's happening this week with macroeconomic data. And we have Palantir that has signed an extension of a very big commercial deal with a very large company. We'll be talking about that in just a few moments here. If you are new or a returning viewer, hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos, and of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm collecting all the data and dispatching it to you. Pop it up. Palantir right now at 34.72 in the after hours. We see Palantir that has now hit a multi-year high and a 52-week high. We are seeing lots of trading volume coming in, 140 million to be exact, and the options activity is starting to take off. Over 61,000 on the call volume today at the $35 strike price. We see a lot of activity coming into PLTR along and correlated with the rebound in the entire market. Now, looking at the market right here, you got the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ Dow Jones up over 1%. This is a good rebound following last week's worst week of the S&P 500 that we've seen in a long time. Now, talking about that, what Alex Karp has came out here, it's on Palantir's official channel. I really urge you guys to check it out. I'll put it down in the description. It's referencing the S&P 500 inclusion and his whole message to Palantir. So I really want you guys to go check that out because it is very good to watch. Now, talking about this, Palantir Soars, we see Dell Pops. These are some of the big stocks that join the S&P 500 with the announcement on Friday. One important thing to remember is that this was just the announcement. We're seeing this reaction that's happening right now. The actual rebalance on when Palantir will actually be included and be affected by the passive buying of all the different market funds, ETFs, and different indexes that track the S&P 500, that's not going to take into effect until before the market open of September 23rd. Now, with these stocks that are starting to jump, we're seeing momentum that is coming in here. It's important to understand this is an inclusion effect, and the data is not really strong. We talked about this in a few videos ago, talking about what to expect in these inclusion effects, but Palantir does have a lot of trendiness behind it, and I think we're seeing that right now with buying momentum. One of the big things, and I think what is leading to this big momentum mover right here, up over 14% of the day, is that Palantir investors, they've really been anxiously waiting over the past year as profitability has continued to be reported in those earnings reports. And it was just more of not a matter if, but more of a matter when. And I think this kind of came to a surprise. I personally wasn't fully expecting Palantir to be included into this S&P 500 announcement for this quarter, for this rebalance. And what Dan Ives comes out here and says is that basically this moment has been anxiously waited by a lot of investors with profitability, and the profile of the story has really significantly been bolstered with this. In another validation moment for the Palantir story. It's continuing right here. In a nutshell, getting added to the S&P 500 index is an important moment in the history that they believe marks an era of enterprise growth and profitability over the next few years. And we see here that the Palantir commercial unit sales gets a boost. We're seeing the notable, of course, surge in the commercial division. We saw that last quarter, and with the forecasted full year sales, it's sitting around 2.75 billion right now, a pretty big boost from its prior estimate. So as guidance is increasing right here, the next quarter earnings still has about 2 months to go, a little under that, November 1st. But however, we are seeing 11 earnings per share revisions in the bullish direction, and earnings per share that is estimated right now at about 9 cents with a correlated revenue of 703 million. Now we have a big content creator here on Palantir, Amit, Coming out here, releasing this breaking news, this is where I saw it first, that Palantir has signed a 5-year extension with one of their earliest commercial clients, BP, to implement AIP throughout the entire company. This is awesome, first of all, and the fact that BP extended this contract shows you that they found it very useful in terms of utility factor, bringing AI and specifically Palantir into its business to help improve efficiency, to help cut cost, to help improve many different aspects of running a successful business. It's important to note here, and Amit notes this right here, that BP is one of the largest oil companies on the planet with a market cap of $87 billion. So just in terms of credibility and exposure, Palantir's AIP software has really been hitting the ground running since its launch about a year ago. And with this, I think we're just going to continue to see more commercial clients that sign on board AIP, which will help scale, bring more revenue on board, and help beat the expectations that Wall Street is holding PLTR, which is decently high on each earnings report. What we're seeing in the market, like I said, a big rebound from the worst week of 2024. We saw last week a lot of red across the board, and right now a good rebound as we see about 1.2%. Now, we mentioned this earlier in the video. Some of the stocks that are really kind of pushing this are the financials, industrials, and energy stocks. Also, we have NVDA, Tesla, some of the other big mega cap stocks that are having an influence. One of the big things that we did see was the August jobs report. That's why we saw a lot of red in last week. Now, the big question is how aggressively is the Fed going to be lowering those interest rates? The anticipation right now is, I think, about 25 basis points. We talked about there's about a 70% probability and about a 30% probability that we could see a 50 basis point cut. However, that could be a little bit risky in terms of probabilities of recession. But right now, focus is going to be on the fresh consumer inflation report. That's going to be due Wednesday, which means there could be a little bit of uncertainty and decrease in volume in terms of trading activity tomorrow, because a lot of investors are going to await that report. And I think that inflation report, which usually the Fed uses as a pretty reliable gauge on what they're going to be doing in terms of interest rates, that's going to have a big impact on the macroeconomic data. And that's where it needs to be important to understand that Palantir, yes, this is awesome to celebrate for the bulls, to celebrate these all-time highs and these multi-year highs. However, it is at the top right now. So any big fluctuations in the market could cause any reversals at any time. That's why risk assessment is really important. Understanding, fully doing your own research and due diligence. Don't listen to some just random guy on YouTube. Gather everything that you can and make your own knowledgeable decision. Now, Apple, we talked about this, debuted its iPhone 16 smartphone, and this was going to be the first iPhone that was incorporating AI into its device and platform and its phone. They also saw updates on the Apple Watch and the AirPods Pro 2, which basically include hearing protections. Shares didn't move that much, and this is kind of normal. We start to see kind of hype and hopium that after you see announcement dates or big product launches from some of these big tech companies, we all think the shares are going to go up. That is not necessarily happen at all. Sometimes they can actually go down if they're disappointing in terms of prospects for the future. But they basically hold steady. So that's where the market leads us right here. And what's going to be happening over the next week will be incredibly interesting. Other things that we've looked at, NVIDIA. We see a little bit of a rebound today, up about 3.5%, and including the after hours, up about 4%, sitting at 107. One of the big important support levels for NVIDIA, remember, is at that $100 level. That's where we can have a lot of support that gets tested, and depending on market conditions, that could continue to be tested. If it holds support and continues there, that is great at forming a foundational level of support. Consolidating at this level and allowing NVIDIA to cool off a little bit is not necessarily a bad thing, considering its run up. Same thing with Palantir. If we see consolidation and a strong foundational support being formed at the 30s, that is also, in my opinion, not a bad thing in terms of cooling off and trying to rely on some of these support zones. When these stocks trade with a lot of momentum and buying pressure. A lot of technical analysis gets thrown out the window. Valuation, that's already been thrown out the window. So we get into this era that, things need to be taken with precautions. That's all about I have for you guys. Peace out. Take care. What do you make of all this news? I'll catch you guys later. Have a wonderful day in tomorrow's video.